Every year, EA Sports uses the latest game in the series to stimulate the upcoming NHL season and try to figure out who will win the Stanley Cup. EA Sports released their sim using NHL 23 and shared the results, including the standings for all NHL divisions and the Stanley Cup champion from the regular season. Let's dive into today's video. Kicking us off, EA's NHL 23 season sim predicts the 2022-23 Stanley Cup champion. At first glance, there are a few predictions about the 2022-2023 regular season division standings that stand out from the rest. The first is that NHL 23 says the Seattle Kraken will finish third in the Pacific Division and make the playoffs for the first time in the team's history. The Seattle Kraken will only be in the NHL for their second season, so making the Stanley Cup playoffs in their second year seems unlikely. Shane Wright was taken by the Seattle Kraken in the NHL draft of 2022, but other than that, I would guess that the Seattle Kraken would be near the bottom of the Pacific Division. It's also hard to imagine the Vegas Golden Knights not making it to the playoffs. Last season was the first time in the team's history that they didn't make the playoffs. However, they were dealing with a lot of injuries at the time. If they can stay healthy going into the 2022-23 NHL season, they should be a force to be reckoned with. Also, Jack Eichel will be playing for the Vegas Golden Knights right from the start of the season, which should help a lot. If they can just figure out who will be in goal, this team can do a lot of damage and get back to the playoffs. The New York Islanders finished fourth in the Metropolitan Division and made the playoffs, which was another surprise from the NHL 23 season simulator. The New York Islanders will have an interesting year. Going into this season, people have different things to say about this team. I think a lot will depend on whether or not Matthew Barzal can really improve his offensive play. Barzal hasn't had a season with more than 62 points in the 4 years since his rookie year, when he had 85 points. Last week, the New York Islanders gave him an 8-year, $73.2 million contract, which is a huge risk given how he's been playing lately. But we'll see how it all turns out. The regular season simulation was just the tip of the iceberg. EA Sports also did their official NHL 23 playoff simulation, and it said that the Pittsburgh Penguins would win Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals against the Colorado Avalanche. There's no doubt that this could happen. Some of the best players in the world are on the Penguins' core team. There were questions about what would happen to Evgeny Malkin and Christopher Letang before the season started, but they ended up staying in Pittsburgh, which could help them win the Stanley Cup again. After winning the Stanley Cup in 2022, it's clear that the Colorado Avalanche are the best team in the NHL. Their team looks good on paper again this year, and I think they could make another run to win back-to-back Stanley Cups. Last year, when all 16 teams had already been chosen, EA Sports did a playoff simulation for NHL 22. Even though their playoff simulation was wrong, it did pick one of the Stanley Cup Finals teams right. If EA's NHL 23 season simulation is right, 3 new teams will be in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. The Seattle Kraken, the Vancouver Canucks, and the New York Islanders would be these teams. It's always fun to keep up with the NHL 23 season and playoff simulations to see which predictions come true and which ones don't. We all know that sports can be hard to predict and that there are surprises around every corner. Will Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins win the Stanley Cup in 2023? We'll find out in June of that year. Next up, Sharks go home confident despite getting swept in the 2022 NHL Global Series. When the San Jose Sharks got on a plane to go to Berlin and then Prague for the 2022 NHL Global Series, many of the players didn't know each other very well. They started out with a new general manager, front office, coach, staff, and a lot of new players. They also had to learn new systems. They had their first practice as a full team at Wellblechpalast in Berlin, and on Friday and Saturday, they played their first NHL games together against the Nashville Predators at O2 Arena in Prague. They lost both. On Friday, they lost 4-1, and on Saturday, they lost 3-2. It showed a team that isn't quite finished yet, one that is still figuring out what it is and what it could be. Forward Luke Kunin, who spent the last 2 seasons with the Predators before joining the Sharks, said, "We've got a lot of new pieces. I think we're in a tough race. Tonight, we played a lot better than last night. We did a lot of good things to give ourselves a chance to win tonight, but it wasn't enough," which made the results hard to understand, but also clear. When you lose a game, you learn a little more about your team. That's what we're doing as the season goes on. Our group has a lot of new members, and we'll build on what we did tonight. On Saturday, Kunin's goal at 14 minutes 24 seconds of the first period, and Logan Couture's goal at 4 minutes 45 seconds of the second put the Sharks ahead of the game. But Philip Forsberg tied the game at 6 minutes 29 seconds, and Nino Niederreiter scored his second goal of the game at 12 minutes 13 seconds of the second, right after he got out of the penalty box, giving the lead. Mario Ferraro, who who plays defense, said, "I think we deserve to win that one. It hurts." Ultimately, the hope is that this trip will have lasting effects, even if it didn't bring them a point in the standings. The hope is that the Sharks will know and understand each other better after they've ridden scooters on cobblestone streets, learned to pour Czech beer, and eaten food from other countries. The hope is that players who didn't know each other a month ago will become teammates, and as they learn to play together, the results will get better. As Ferraro put it, they'll become a team that plays fast-paced, hard hockey, committed hockey, and honest hockey, selfless. That's what we want. For now, the Sharks were happy to see progress, even if it was just from the first game of the regular season to the second, from one night to the next. The Sharks were going to go back to San Jose to rest and get back to normal after a week away from their usual routine. During that week, they saw their Czech teammates, forward Tomas Hertl and defenseman Radim Simek, got a lot of love and attention from the fans at O2 Arena, but they didn't do well in the standings, and things don't get much better from here on out. After playing the Carolina Hurricanes and the Chicago Blackhawks back-to-back next Friday and Saturday, the Sharks will hop on another plane for a 4-game road trip through New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. On October 20th, Quinn will play against his old team, the New York Rangers. The Sharks will have 5 days off, but they know that they'll be able to practice more, get to know each other better, and learn what Quinn wants from them and how close they can get to that ideal. Finally, Lightning reinstates Ian Cole after NHL closes investigation. The NHL said it didn't find any proof that Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman Ian Cole did anything wrong in his way, so the case is over. Cole was put on paid suspension by the Lightning, but they brought him back right away. Cole said in a statement, "I'm grateful for the opportunity to respond to and refute the anonymous allegations made against me, which I categorically deny. I'm looking forward to returning to the ice with my teammates and will have no further comments on this matter going forward." On October 7th, an anonymous Twitter user wrote on a long post in which she accused Cole, who is 33, of abusing and pursuing her when she was a child. The person, who said her name was Emily Smith, said she met Cole when she was in high school and that they dated for 4 years. The NHL's security and legal departments spent a week looking into what happened. The NHL said that it couldn't get in touch with the person behind the Twitter account. The league said that it carefully looked at online and social media sites, public data, court records, and interviews with Cole and other individuals with potentially relevant information. In a statement, the NHLPA said that it was pleased that the situation had been resolved, but that it was worried about the precedent of suspending a player based on anonymous allegations. Players should never be subject to suspension or discipline in response to unsubstantiated and anonymous accusations, the NHLPA said in a statement. Removing a player from his team under these circumstances is inappropriate and grossly unfair. The NHLPA said it would talk to the league about how to handle similar situations in the future. Unfortunately, guys, that's all the time we have for today. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Till next time, cheers!